Warriors' impossible plan. What if the most shocking move in NBA history is not a trade that already happened, but a trade the Warriors are still trying to create? Because right now, Golden State is not just looking for another role player. They are not just searching for one more shooter, one more defender, or one more bench scorer to survive the Western Conference. No, the Warriors are reportedly staring at something much bigger, much louder, and much more dangerous. They want Anthony Davis. And if they can get Anthony Davis, the real target becomes LeBron James. That is the part that turns this from a normal offseason rumor into a full NBA earthquake. The idea is simple, but almost unbelievable. First, Golden State tries to bring Davis to the Bay Area. Then, once Davis is wearing Warriors colors, they call LeBron and make the pitch every basketball fan would stop to hear. Come reunite with AD. Come play beside Stephen Curry. Come trust Steve Kerr. Come chase one last ring before the curtain closes. For years, Curry and LeBron were the faces of opposite kingdoms. They met on the biggest stage. They battled for championships. They shaped an entire era of basketball from different sides of the war. But now, at this late stage of their careers, the Warriors may be asking the question nobody thought would become real. What if the final chapter is not Steph versus LeBron? What if it is Steph with LeBron? That is why this story refuses to die. Golden State knows Curry's championship window is shrinking. Every season matters now. Every injury costs more. Every failed trade target hurts deeper. This is not a franchise with 10 years to wait. This is a team looking at its greatest player and saying, we owe you one more real chance. But the path is brutal. Davis is expensive. LeBron would have to sacrifice money. Draymond Green may have to adjust. Jimmy Butler could become the trade piece. Washington may not even say yes. The Lakers still have family, history, and Bronny James pulling LeBron back toward Los Angeles. Still, the silence is what makes this so powerful. Nobody important has completely shut it down. Not LeBron, not the Warriors, not Curry, not Davis. And in the NBA, silence can be louder than a denial. So before we go deeper, tell me where you are watching from right now. If you believe the Warriors should go all in for Anthony Davis and LeBron James, comment 1. If you think this plan is too risky and could destroy what is left of Curry's final years, comment 2. And if you love NBA stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because this may be the beginning of the wildest offseason chase we have ever seen. Why Golden State cannot wait anymore. For the Warriors, this is not just another offseason. This is not a normal summer where a front office can sit back, evaluate the market, and talk calmly about patience. Patience is a luxury Golden State no longer had. Because Stephen Curry is still great, but time is no longer standing still for him. Every year now feels heavier. Every missed playoff run feels more expensive. Every injury feels like a warning. And every time the Warriors watch another contender rise in the West, the same uncomfortable truth comes back into the room. The dynasty is not dead yet, but it is running out of chances. That is why this Anthony Davis and LeBron James idea matters so much. It is not just about star power, it is about urgency. Golden State has spent the last few years trying to find the right final piece. They looked at Kevin Durant, they were linked to Giannis Antetokounmpo, they explored names like Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Lauri Markkanen, and Pascal Siakam. Again and again, they swung big. Again and again, the door closed before they could walk through it. That tells you something about the Warriors' mindset. They are not trying to rebuild quietly. They are not trying to waste Curry's final elite years, developing slowly and hoping the next generation arrives in time. This franchise still sees itself as a championship organization. And when you have Curry, when you have Draymond Green, when you have Steve Kerr, when you still have the bones of a dynasty, you do not simply accept being average. You fight the clock. That is what makes this plan so dramatic. Golden State knows a normal move may not be enough. Adding one decent role player does not scare Oklahoma City. Adding one bench scorer does not shake Denver. Adding one veteran minimum player does not convince LeBron James to listen. But Anthony Davis? That changes the conversation. Anthony Davis makes the phone call real. Anthony Davis turns a fantasy into a pitch. And once that pitch exists, everything gets louder. Because Curry and LeBron together would not be just another veteran pairing. It would be two legends, two rivals, two era-defining forces choosing the same side for one final run. The Warriors understand the power of that image. They understand how much pressure it would put on the league. They understand how much belief it could create inside their own locker room. But desperation can be dangerous. When a team knows its window is closing, it can make brilliant decisions or reckless ones. The line between courage and panic becomes thin. Trading assets for an older, expensive, injury risk big man just to maybe convince a 4-0 plus-year-old LeBron to take less money is not a safe plan. It is a dangerous one, but safe does not win final chapter. And Golden State is no longer writing the middle of its story, it is writing the ending. The Jimmy Butler problem. The reason this entire plan even exists starts with a wound Golden State still has not fully healed from. Jimmy Butler was supposed to be the answer. When the Warriors made their move for Butler, it was not about patience. It was not about the future. It was a message to Curry, to the locker room, and to the rest of the league that Golden State was still willing to chase greatness. Butler brought toughness. He brought playoff credibility. He brought the kind of fearless personality that seemed built for high-pressure basketball. For a moment, the idea made sense. Curry needed help. Draymond needed another warrior beside him. Kerr needed someone who could survive ugly playoff possessions when the game slowed down and every mistake felt massive. Butler was never going to be a perfect fit, but he was supposed to give Golden State another adult in the room, another closer, another fighter. Then the season turned. The injuries hit. The rhythm disappeared. The Warriors slipped from a team with hope into a team trying to survive. Butler's ACL injury did not just damage the roster. It damaged the plan. Suddenly, the player Golden State had acquired to save the Curry window became the contract that might have to be moved to save it again. That is the brutal side of the NBA. One day, a player is the solution. The next day, he becomes the salary match. Butler's large expiring contract is now the key piece that could make an Anthony Davis trade financially possible. That is why his name sits at the center of this story, even if the dream is really about Curry, Davis, and LeBron. Without Butler's contract, the math gets even harder. With it, the Warriors at least have a path to make Washington answer the phone, and Butler seems to understand the business. He knows Golden State's job is to win. He knows Curry cannot wait forever. He knows that if the front office believes another player gives them a quicker path to contention, they may have to act. That does not make it painless. It does not make it cold-hearted. It simply makes it the NBA. Still, there is something dramatic about Butler becoming the bridge to Davis. He was brought in to help Curry chase another title. Now he might be moved so the Warriors can chase a bigger, louder, riskier version of that same dream. And if that happens, Butler's short time in Golden State may be remembered not for what he did on the court, but for the door his contract opened. That door leads to Anthony Davis. And behind Anthony Davis stands the biggest name in basketball. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, the strangest domino. In the NBA, Anthony Davis was once supposed to be the future of the Lakers. He was the superstar big man who helped LeBron James bring a championship to Los Angeles. He was the defensive anchor, the lob threat, the mid-range scorer, the matchup problem, the player who could dominate both ends when healthy. For years, the Lakers' dream was simple. LeBron would lead, Davis would inherit, and the franchise would move from one era to the next without falling apart. Then everything changed. Davis was moved in a shocking trade that sent him away from Los Angeles and pushed him into a completely different chapter. Suddenly, the player who had won beside LeBron was no longer part of the Lakers' future. He was in Dallas, surrounded by a franchise trying to recover from its own massive decision. And before that situation could even settle, Davis was moved again, from Laker to Maverick to Wizard. That kind of journey is rare for a player of his level. Stars do not usually bounce through the league like that unless something deeper is happening. In Davis's case, it was a mix of money, injuries, timing, and uncertainty. He remained a huge name, but the questions around him grew louder. How healthy is he? How much can he still carry? Is he worth a massive extension at this stage? Can a rebuilding team really build around him? Washington became the strangest stop of all. The Wizards had young pieces. They had a future to protect. They made a major commitment to Trae Young. They were trying to create a new direction. And yet, there was Davis, a veteran superstar big man with championship experience, sitting inside a timeline that did not fully match his own. That mismatch is what Golden State sees. Davis wants to win. The Warriors want to win now. Washington may want flexibility. The Warriors have a large contract in Butler and future picks that could at least start a conversation. On paper, it is complicated. Emotionally, it is even more complicated. But strategically, it is clear why Golden State would try. Davis is not just another big man. He is the one player in this story who connects everything. He connects LeBron to the past. He connects Curry to the present. He connects Washington's uncertainty to Golden State's desperation. And if the Warriors can somehow pull him out of Washington, the entire league has to take the next question seriously. Would LeBron really ignore a chance to reunite with Davis and play with Curry? That is why Davis is the first domino, not because he guarantees LeBron, but because without him, the pitch may not be strong enough. The pitch that could change everything. The Warriors' plan is not just about basketball. It is about emotion, memory, legacy, and timing. Because if they call LeBron James with a normal roster, the answer probably comes quickly. He respects Curry, he respects Kerr, he respects Golden State, but respect alone does not make a legend take a massive pay cut and leave Los Angeles. Respect alone does not separate a father from the team where his son is playing. Respect alone does not move LeBron James in year 24. The pitch has to feel bigger. That is where Anthony Davis changes everything. If Davis is already in Golden State, the conversation becomes different. The Warriors are no longer saying, "Come help Steph." They are saying, "AD is here, Steph is here, Draymond is here, Kerr is here. The structure is ready. The championship runway is built. All we need is you." That is a powerful message. LeBron knows Davis. He trusts Davis. They won together. They survived playoff battles together. They understand each other's rhythm in a way that does not need months of adjustment. Davis can protect the rim, finish inside, switch defensive looks, and give LeBron a familiar release valve when the game gets tight. Then add Curry. Curry changes the geometry of the floor more than almost any player in NBA history. For LeBron, that is intoxicating. He has spent his entire career creating advantages. Now imagine him creating those advantages while the greatest shooter ever bends the defense 30 feet from the basket. Imagine Davis rolling to the rim, Draymond screening and directing traffic, Kerr building motion around three of the smartest basketball minds of their generation. The fit is not perfect, but the idea is breathtaking. And that is what the Warriors are selling. Not youth, not comfort, not money. They are selling a final masterpiece. A 1 or 2 year window where age does not matter if the execution is sharp, where experience becomes a weapon, where every national TV game feels like an event and every playoff series becomes a referendum on basketball history. But the pitch also has risk. LeBron would have to decide what matters most. Does he stay in Los Angeles, close to family, business, and Bronny? Does he take the biggest possible contract and continue the Lakers chapter? Or does he sacrifice money for one final swing at something that has never happened before? Curry and LeBron on the same team. For fans, it sounds like fantasy. For the Warriors, it may be the only pitch strong enough to make LeBron listen. And if he listens, everything changes. LeBron's impossible choice. LeBron James has spent his career controlling the story. From Cleveland to Miami, from Miami back to Cleveland, from Cleveland to Los Angeles, every major move carried a purpose. Sometimes it was about winning. Sometimes it was about legacy. Sometimes it was about family, business, power, or history. But it was never random. LeBron does not just change teams. He changes the league's direction when he moves. That is why this decision is so heavy. Leaving the Lakers would not be simple. Los Angeles is not just another stop for LeBron. It is where he built a business empire, where his family has roots, where he won a championship, and where his son Bronny has become part of the basketball story. That matters. For LeBron, the final chapter is not only about rings, it is about the people around him, the image he leaves behind, and the way his career ends. That is the Lakers' strongest advantage. They can offer familiarity. They can offer family comfort. They can offer the chance to finish what he started in Los Angeles. They can point to Bronny and say the story is not over. They can remind LeBron that walking away now would leave unfinished business behind. But Golden State can offer something Los Angeles cannot. They can offer Stephen Curry. That is the name that makes this complicated. LeBron and Curry were once the two poles of the NBA universe. For years, fans were forced to choose sides. LeBron's power, IQ, and physical control against Curry's shooting, movement, and impossible gravity. They were rivals. They were symbols. They represented different ways to dominate the game. Now, the idea of them together feels almost unfair to history. And LeBron knows that. He knows what it would mean. He knows every arena would be packed. Every game would be dissected. Every win would become proof the experiment could work. Every loss would become proof they were too old. The pressure would be enormous, but LeBron has never run from pressure. In many ways, he has built his career inside it. The harder part is money. Golden State cannot pay him what Los Angeles can. To join the Warriors, LeBron would likely have to take far less than his usual salary. That turns the decision into something deeper than business. It becomes a legacy choice. Does he value one more massive paycheck? Or one more historic attempt at a ring with Curry and Davis? There is no easy answer because every path costs him something. Stay with the Lakers and maybe he protects family and comfort, but misses the chance to create the most fascinating final act in NBA history. Join the Warriors and maybe he chases immortality, but sacrifices money, stability, and the Los Angeles ending. That is why the entire league is watching. LeBron's next move is not just about where he plays. It is about how he wants us to remember the ending. Curry and LeBron, from rivals to teammates, there are some basketball images fans never forget. LeBron driving into a wall of Warriors defenders. Curry dancing behind the three-point line. Draymond yelling after a defensive stop. Finals crowds roaring as Cleveland and Golden State turn June into their own personal battlefield. For years, this rivalry defined the NBA. It was not just two teams. It was two basketball philosophies colliding at the highest level. That is why the idea of Curry and LeBron wearing the same uniform feels so unreal. They were not supposed to become teammates. They were supposed to be remembered as opponents. LeBron was the physical genius, the chess master, the force who could bend an entire series with his brain and body. Curry was the revolutionary, the shooter who changed how the sport was played, the player who turned distance into a weapon and made every defense panic before he even crossed half court. Together, they would create something the NBA has never truly seen. Not because they are both still at their absolute peak. They are not. That is part of the drama. This would not be two young superstars taking over the league for the next decade. This would be two legends trying to bend time for one last run. And in some ways, that makes it even more compelling. Because the question is not whether they can dominate for 5 years. The question is whether they can be brilliant for 5 months. Can Curry's shooting give LeBron the space he has always dreamed of? Can LeBron's passing unlock Curry in ways even Draymond has not? Can Davis cover enough defensive ground to protect an older roster? Can Kerr manage egos, minutes, health, and expectations without the whole thing becoming too heavy? The basketball fit has real beauty. LeBron has always been at his best when surrounded by shooting and smart decision makers. Curry is the ultimate off-ball superstar. He does not need to hold the ball to destroy a defense. That means LeBron could still orchestrate while Curry bends defenders away from the action. Davis would give them vertical pressure and rim protection. Draymond would bring edge, communication, and chemistry with Curry. But the emotional fit is what makes this story explode. After all the finals battles, after all the debates, after all the years of fans comparing their greatness, Curry and LeBron could decide to stop fighting history separately and attack it together. That would not erase the rivalry, it would add one final twist to it. First, they defined an era from opposite sides. Now, they might try to end it side by side, and if that happens, every NBA fan will watch. The money wall standing in the way. Every dream sounds perfect until the salary cap enters the room. That is where the Warriors' plan becomes extremely difficult. On a whiteboard, Curry, LeBron, Davis, Draymond, and Kerr look like basketball poetry. On a cap sheet, they look like a storm. Every contract matters. Every dollar mattered. Every option, exception, apron, and roster spot becomes part of a puzzle that has almost no margin for error. The Warriors cannot simply say, we want LeBron, and make it happen. They have to create the room. They have to manage Draymond Green's contract. They have to account for other veteran deals. They have to complete a Davis trade without destroying their remaining depth. Then, even if all of that works, they still have to offer LeBron a number that is far below what he could likely command elsewhere. That is the first wall. The second wall is Anthony Davis. If Washington truly wants to keep him and talk extension, Golden State has a problem. The Warriors can offer Jimmy Butler's expiring salary and draft capital, but Washington has no obligation to accept. The Wizards may decide Davis is worth keeping. They may demand more picks. They may prefer a younger package from another team. They may use Golden State's interest to raise the price. And the Warriors cannot overpay too much. That is the dangerous part. If they give away too many assets to get Davis, they may not have enough left to build around him, Curry and LeBron. A team full of legends still needs legs. It needs shooting. It needs defense. It needs bench scoring. It needs players who can survive 82 games so the stars are not exhausted by April. The third wall is health. Davis has missed major time. LeBron is still incredible, but age is real. Draymond has miles on his body. Curry has carried enormous responsibility for years. If one of those players goes down, the entire structure could shake. The Warriors know this better than anyone because recent seasons have already taught them how quickly injuries can destroy a plan. Then there is the hard cap. If Golden State uses the mid-level exception for LeBron, their flexibility tightens. They cannot just keep adding pieces freely. They would be forced to search the bargain market, asking veterans to take less for a chance to chase a ring. That can work, but only if the stars stay healthy and the role players accept smaller roles without losing confidence. So yes, the dream is alive, but the path is narrow. One wrong number, one refused trade, one injury concern, one rival offer, one contract decision from Draymond, and the whole plan could collapse before LeBron ever takes the call. That is why this is not just a rumor. It is a high-wire act, and Golden State is walking it without a safety net. The 3 possible ending. There are only 3 ways this Warriors story can end. The first ending is the dream. Golden State trades for Anthony Davis, then uses him as the final piece to convince LeBron James to leave Los Angeles. If that happens, the entire NBA changes overnight. Curry, LeBron, Davis, and Draymond on the same team would become the most talked about veteran super team in years. Every game would feel like an event. Every win would fuel the belief that history is happening. Every loss would raise the same question. Are they too old to survive the West? The second ending is only half the dream. The Warriors get Davis, but LeBron stays with the Lakers. That would still make Golden State dangerous. Curry finally gets an elite big man who can protect the rim, finish inside, and give the team a real defensive anchor. But without LeBron, the move loses its earthquake effect. It becomes a strong basketball move, not a league-shaking moment. The third ending is the painful one. Washington refuses to trade Davis. LeBron stays in Los Angeles. Draymond's contract makes the money impossible. Or another team jumps in with a better offer. If that happens, Golden State has to return to smaller moves, adding guards, shooters, backup bigs, and role players around Curry. That would not be a disaster, but it would feel smaller after fans imagine something so massive. And that is the danger of this kind of rumor. Once people picture Curry and LeBron together, every normal move feels disappointing. Still, even if the plan fails, the message is clear. The Warriors are not ready to let Curry's final chapter fade quietly. They are still hunting, they are still swinging, and they are still willing to chase the impossible, the final lesson of the Warriors' gamble. This story is bigger than Anthony Davis or LeBron James. It is about how far a franchise should go to protect the final years of its greatest player. Stephen Curry gave Golden State a dynasty. He changed basketball. He brought championships, memories, and an identity that made the Warriors one of the most powerful brands in sports. So, now the front office faces a difficult question. Do they play it safe and slowly decline, or do they risk everything for one last real champ? That is why the Davis and LeBron plan makes sense emotionally, even if it is dangerous on paper. Davis would give the Warriors size, defense, and a second superstar presence. LeBron would bring leadership, playmaking, attention, and the most dramatic final chapter the NBA could imagine. Together with Curry and Draymond, it would be a team built on experience, intelligence, sacrifice, and pressure. But big names do not guarantee championships. They would still need health. They would still need depth. They would still need shooting, defense, chemistry, and humility. LeBron would have to sacrifice money. Davis would have to stay available. Draymond would have to lead with control. Curry would have to share the spotlight in the final years of his own era. That is the real lesson. Greatness is not just about collecting stars. It is about building trust. It is about choosing the right people, accepting the right roles, and chasing something bigger than ego. Maybe LeBron stays with the Lakers. Maybe Davis stays in Washington. Maybe the Warriors never pull this off. But the pursuit alone proves one thing. Golden State still believes Curry deserves one more shot, and that belief is exactly what championship franchises are supposed to have. If you think the Warriors should risk everything for Anthony Davis and LeBron James, comment 1. If you think this plan is too dangerous and they should protect the future, comment 2. Like the video, share it with another NBA fan, and subscribe for more NBA trade drama, superstar rumors, and deep basketball stories.